TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
If check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the day, that time of the week for the Midday Market Report with good friend and colleague, Mr. Ron Marmalefsky at Ron A Sports. And you can find his work, of course, at Wager Talk. We'll get to that at the end of the show when I hit him with that nice little 7-yard button hook with his closing thoughts and where we can find all his great work. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It's free. I promise you, it will be one of your most used apps from the rest of this year and beyond. Viva Tequila Seltzer. CT Bets. Team family second to none. East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. Head on over to where you purchase your adult beverages. If they don't have Viva, ask why. And of course, Mr. Terry himself, Mr. Atlanta Steak and Seafood. My grill will be smoking tonight. I hope yours is too. Head on over to Atlanta Steak and Seafood, and at the checkout window, use the promo code customer. Get 15% off any order over $199. And I know this, once you get in there and start shopping, it will probably go over $190. So go see Terry Smith on Facebook at Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Tell him JD from ECSI sent you. So without further ado, live from LA or somewhere in the left coast, Mr. Ron himself. Good afternoon,
Hi, Jeff.
sir.
How are you
How are
doing
you?
today? I'm fine. About 90 miles away from Los Angeles, but enjoying the outside weather today. Beautiful day out on the West Coast.
Shout out to good friend Mr. Billy Hewlin. Have not seen or heard from you in forever. Big game in Tuscaloosa, Billy, on Saturday as Georgia rolls in. I think Georgia 2-point favorites. We will get to you in that game. Billy, hug Rebecca for me. So glad you checked in. Glad all is well. Ron, I've started all my football shows with this. We knew pre-flop a month ago, 5 weeks ago, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas were the cream of the crop, or expected cream of the crop. Now we add Alabama and Ole Miss. I am going to stay right now what I said to Paul today and what I've talked to Tyler earlier this week. There's two teams that you better buy stock now, and that's Miami and Tennessee.
Yep, can't disagree with either one of those two. Tennessee's playing defense that they haven't in the last couple of years. They've gotten better and better defensively, and that takes a little bit of pressure off their offense. They seem to find a good running game to complement their quarterback. They're very high on their young quarterback, so that's a good system there. And I probably add one other team to the mix. I wouldn't yet sleep on Penn State. They haven't proven that they could beat Ohio State and Michigan. They only play one of them, I think, this year. I would put Penn State in that mix as well. But that's a good group of teams that you have in that list. Miami, they just need to finish games, really. And they haven't had to be in too many tight games so far. Tight at the half, but they pulled away. Tons of talent. Cam Ward doing a fantastic job at quarterback.
Those are the good. Over the first month, who did you or I or who did we think was going to be good? Now, slow start. I mean, Oregon started off slow the first couple of weeks. They have kind of kicked it into gear. They'll have a matchup in the next couple of weeks with Ohio State. But anyone that we thought was going to be good that is not got off to a good start. I mean, we don't have to mention Florida State. I do have one team on my do not play list anymore. They got me once, okay. They got me again. That was Virginia Tech and the team total.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, maybe they're just used to some slow starts. That's how the gentleman's coaching career started off. And then they got a little bit hot. Then they teased us by, okay, this year they're going to be a top 25 team. And then they started slow again. Result that surprised me last week was how soundly Kansas State was beaten by BYU. So I had to look at a double take. We knew going in that the Big 12 race was going to be take 10 teams, put them in a hat, throw them up in the air and see what happens. But I didn't think that that was going to be the margin of victory or margin of defeat for Kansas State. Now we got to put the teams back in a hat, put a couple more teams in and figure it out. I just think that's Big 12 football for the next foreseeable future.
Could K-State have been peeking ahead to this week's game against Okie State?
I guess it's possible. They've had some tendencies to not have good September showings on the road, even under Bill Snyder in that kind of format. You'd think they'd take notice that BYU had won a couple of games. It's a conference game. It's just the way the stat sheet showed that I believe they had over 100 yards compared to BYU. They did win the stat sheet, yet they were nowhere close in the game. I think a look ahead is probably not the full picture. The full picture is they just didn't play well.
Opening day, Labor Day weekend, LSU takes it on the chin at the Coliseum against USC. I think everyone remembered that, especially going into last week, because what do we remember about Michigan a few weeks prior getting lambasted by Texas? Well, hats off to Michigan. Is this the Michigan that we should have expected moving forward, or did USC just have a bad day?
I think it was a matchup problem for USC. We talked about it last week. I had Michigan favored in the game. I had a mix so week, but that was my biggest play because I didn't yet think, just because of who USC had played, that they'd established the fact they were that good against the run, that they'd suddenly flipped the switch. And under Moore, the current Michigan head coach, that's what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball until you get tired in the fourth quarter. And it was a very good matchup situation for Michigan, who also still plays fundamentally sound defense. I know they lost a ton of talent, but a lot of that talent had people ready to replace them on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. So I didn't think we'd see that much of a drop-off defensively. Now, their quarterback only threw for 32 yards. This is still not a Michigan team that, they're back. It's not going to happen against Ohio State. We're used to shootouts against Ohio State. This actually bodes really poorly for the Michigan-Ohio State game at the end of the season. I still think Michigan is an under team as far as the season win total. I just think they caught a good matchup.
So we got a full month in. Actually, this is the fifth week here.
Yeah.
Going back to your summer work that you do and don't stop to where we are today. Now we're going to see a lot of, some marquee games, which obviously we're going to get into in a second. Alabama and Georgia. Futures in regards to whether it's a team to make the playoffs. You talked about under-overs. Heisman, anyone maybe to just grab and hold, or someone you didn't see maybe back in July and August?
Well, you mentioned Miami, and obviously they're now the favorite in the ACC and a very deserved favorite. It's almost like you can pencil them in for the title game, and then what happens in the title game could be a crapshoot. We don't know what Miami will show up then, but the fact that they're probably going to be in that game, that's what it looks like to me. Still a lot to shake out in the SEC because there's so many teams that can vie for that. I think it's Ohio State and somebody in the Big Ten. Is that Oregon? Quite possibly, but this is a new league for them. They have to prove it a little bit. I don't think the schedule is overwhelmingly daunting because they get to hold on to two of their former Pac-12 members. They get to play UCLA, who's down this year, and they get to play Washington, who they have double revenge against. So it's going to be most likely an Ohio State against Washington situation. And in the group of five, I think it's Boise had that close loss to Oregon. I think if Boise runs the table, even if Liberty goes 12-0 and other teams go 12-0 and so on, I think really Boise has been the most impressive team. And we probably had them in the mix. We didn't realize quite how good they might be. Their running back right now is 10 yards a carry, more than 10 yards a carry. It's a low sample size, and they played a couple of teams that you figured they'd run pretty wild on. But that's a good stat to have when you can get a first down every time you carry the ball. So App State, some of those other teams, not as good as maybe people thought they were. Toledo is going to be an up and down team. So the group of five is starting to thin out, in my opinion.
Well, with the breaking news, was it yesterday, the team that I was pretty high on pre-flop took one in the Jimmy in there, and that was UNLV. The quarterback basically taps out 3-0. Huge game this week against Fresno State. I don't know who their backup is, but obviously kind of deflating for the Rebels moving forward, I would assume.
Yeah, now he was not a high percentage passer. In fact, he was really inaccurate, but he had leadership qualities. It was only really, he's played 3 games. He had a number of years at Holy Cross. So he's been a leader of a team before. So he knows how to do that. He has more of the intangibles than what you would say the actual tangible accuracy. Good runner. He'll be missed because there's very limited experience behind him. Lost in the furor of all this is the fact that one of their running backs, now they do have a variety of running backs, and this is not their lead running back, but one of their running backs said, hey, I'm going to transfer too. I want more carries. So same day, a running back left. So the culture of the program is being tested right now. That's a bigger concern for me moving forward. And this is a big game against Fresno State because probably the winner of this game has a leg up to play Boise in the Mountain West title game, which gives them a shot at the group of 5 spot. So of all the weeks to get, to say I'm done, he could have waited one more week. You're allowed to play 4 games. The fact that the quarterback took this time to miss this game when he could have played in a marquee setting, an important game, maybe that's what college football has come to right now.
I addressed this to Paul. I'm going to say the same thing to you. The marquee game, 7:30 at Tuscaloosa. Georgia travels to Alabama. Currently 1.5, 2, depends upon where you're shopping. The record, I think, was 113 or 119 games in a row. Alabama has been home favorites that, unless bags and bags of money come in tonight and tomorrow, Georgia will be a slight favorite there. I said this, Ron. if you like Alabama on Saturday and you are going to the window to play Alabama on Saturday, shouldn't you also add a Jalen Milroe Heisman Trophy winner ticket to your portfolio?
Really not a bad idea because it's generally a quarterback-driven award. There are a couple wide receivers that are tearing it up, but certainly if Alabama wins this game, they have at Tennessee and at LSU, plus the Oklahoma Auburn the last couple weeks. I don't have Alabama running the table, but then again, I've been wrong on Alabama in a sense because they're better. They've handled this transition from Nick Saban a lot better than what I thought they would. But it makes sense, the correlation between winning this game and being, eliminating essentially a Heisman contender quarterback from Georgia and putting Alabama most certainly in the top 4 contention makes sense.
Does your numbers have Georgia a slight favorite on Saturday?
I have Georgia half a point. So it's in the ballpark. It's not enormously off. So yeah, it's not an exact science to set a number or a power rating. So anything within that margin, if the line is 2 and the odds are a half, they're in the ballpark. So by power ratings, Alabama has earned the right to be right in the conversation of possibly winning this game.
A decent slate in the college ranks. Obviously, that is the headliner there. Any of your games, any numbers with a slight advantage that for the standing room only people you might be able to sneak out to us?
Let me see where I am at. As far as the marquee games, I don't have very many power rating discrepancies right now. We look at some of the bigger games. I'm running down my sheet. Oklahoma State, Kansas State. The number's about 5. I made the number about 4.5. So by power ratings, it's really about right. Kansas State's a very good home team. They kind of have the running edge in this game. I would certainly have a heavy dose lean to Kansas State, but by power numbers, no advantage there. Oregon, UCLA, that number is pretty much correct. It's a big number, but it's pretty much correct. Am I missing any marquee game this week? Virginia Tech, Miami, Florida is tomorrow. I'd say Miami is a little bit higher than what I would have made the line, but you can understand it by the way Miami's bandwagon has grown. You're going to have to pay a little bit of a penalty if you like Miami because they've looked so good, and Virginia Tech has gone kind of back and forth. So it's understandable to me that based on power ratings, Miami would be a little bit above what the proper number would be.
Not so much a marquee game, but I'm looking here. Liberty, Appalachian State. I had a number of 2.5. Liberty was favored at App State. Now 3.5 at the Circa, with the 62.5. That number correct? Surprisingly, Liberty a short favorite at App State.
I'm not a big App State fan right now, but I have Liberty as a 2-point favorite, so it's kind of in the ballpark. I try to do a check. Those who know me know that in games like this, I really want to know what's going on with special team play, which place kicker might be put in a position to either win the game or lose the game. So I'm looking at my notes real quick here, and it looks like there's no advantage as far as that is concerned. Maybe a little bit better in terms of Liberty as far as the place kickers. I have my notes there. And that matters to me in a tight game where maybe they don't get into the end zone, they get to the red zone, and somebody needs to kick a field goal. And the minute they miss their first field goal, then they say, oh, well, we're going to start going for it. We're going to start going for it. And Liberty plays, I kind of favor Liberty in the matchup analysis in this game, not enough to play it. Liberty hasn't looked that great this year, but I just think App State is a little bit down. There's some rumblings even about their coach, even though they've got to multiple bowl games. I mean, App State is always at or near the top of the Sun Belt, but something's missing as far as them being a dominant team right now. And maybe part of that is because this is the tip of the iceberg, Jeff. All these programs are going to get poached by the schools that have more money with the NIL and everything like that. If you're an all-pro, if you made the All-American, All-Sun Belt team, All-Conference USA team, Liberty will lose a couple of players. App State will lose a couple of players. Your best players are not going to be there for the long run.
And lastly, in college, I'm disappointed. Well, we had a great Saturday here at the ECSI VIPs, 4-1 in NCAA team totals. Our only loss was the Virginia Tech team total. And we got a miracle almost in regards to down 16, touchdown, 2-point conversion, touchdown, 2-point conversion. We were within a missed field goal or minute and a half getting that to OT and getting us an opportunity to get that team total over. But I left James Madison team total on the desk, and they put up a position. I think they just scored again, by the way. Their offensive showing against North Carolina, and now James Madison, opened at 18.5, 20.5 against Ball State. Obviously, they won't score like they did, I assume, against North Carolina. And then, of course, the perfect storm. North Carolina gets to travel to Duke. Would have been a great, obviously, basketball matchup. But Duke, surprisingly, 2.5-point favorites with a 56.5 there. Any surprise in either one of those games?
Well, for James Madison, they play a pretty poor, in my opinion, Ball State coach and a Ball State team. At least I'm hoping so for seasonal purposes. Ball State's third straight game on the road, so they're pretty much untouchable. I understand the line move because you got a team fairly young, early in the season, 3 straight road games, not an ideal situation for Ball State. North Carolina is actually in a favorable situation. I would probably play 3 points in North Carolina. It's itching to go up there. It's been there already, I think, once or twice during the week. For all the problems that North Carolina seems to have, giving up 53 points in the first half to James Madison, if you look closely at the running data, it actually, on my analysis, because I subtract for sacks and kneel downs, I have a formula that I use, it still favors North Carolina in this game against Duke. There were cries about Mac Brown. Would he retire? Should he retire? What can we do? Sometimes these coaches, when they're faced with this adversity, they rally the next week. So I would probably count on a rally for North Carolina this week. I'd lean their way. Very underdog-related series. Duke's not done anything wrong, but this will be a more interesting game, hopefully, than people think.
Going to transition to the NFL, and again, going back to the pre-flop, we talk about the 3 weeks of carnage. Over 14,000 people started the Circa Survivor contest, just around 635 left. Expect the unexpected any given Sunday. The list is endless of phrases that we could use there. Kansas City Chiefs going for a three-peat, going for history. Really haven't played that well, undefeated. But it looks like some people slept on the Buffalo Bills. Great quarterback, we know, with Mr. Allen. We were unsure of the defense. No Diggs, no Gabe Davis, no problem. Thoughts on where Buffalo started and to where they are right now?
I probably had Buffalo around 4th, 5th in the power ratings, but certainly not in the top couple of teams. And now they're right there. They're either first or tied for first in most metrics as far as the leading team in the NFL. And I still think there's issues in the secondary, and we'll find out. They're playing a pretty powerful Baltimore team this week. But one thing's for sure, when Josh Allen doesn't turn over the ball, it's hard to beat Buffalo. And if he doesn't turn the ball over against Baltimore, they're going to have chances to win the game either wire to wire, or they can come from behind, because we know Baltimore hasn't been great at protecting leads. So this is a very good team. They have enough at wide receiver, but even more than that, they have a dual tight end threat with Kincaid and Knox. And Kincaid is really emerging as a go-to target for Josh Allen, especially with the changes in the wide receiver core. And then they have Cook out of the backfield, who's 10 yards per reception. So they're really balanced as a team. They limit sacks, which is good against a team like Baltimore. It's really, if Josh Allen doesn't overdo things, this is a very tough team to stop.
I look at the landscape and some 0-3 teams. Cincinnati now again get blindsided by the Pats. A tough game in Kansas City. So the whole world is like, well, here you go. You're on primetime Thursday night against a Washington team. Monday night. A Washington team and Jaden Daniels, OMG. He came in and he says, "I'm the real guy from LSU, not you, Joe." Surprised how well they haven't punted in 2 games now. The Cincinnati defense can't stop a nosebleed right now, and here we are. A lot of people, like myself, thought Cincinnati would be playing Kansas City. Winner goes to the Super Bowl here. Is it time for panic in Cincinnati?
It's time for panic because you're 0-3, but they were a 4th and 16 pass interference call from beating Kansas City and being in a much better frame of mind. And I think that carried over a little to the Washington game. But you have to give Washington's offense credit because they have not turned the ball over. You have a rookie quarterback, a new head coach in a new situation. Half the team is new because they really purged the old roster. No turnovers in 3 games. That's a really impressive stat for Washington. Now, Washington still has flaws, but so does Cincinnati. Their defense is nowhere near. You say, okay, well, can you stop at least one area, the run or the pass? And Cincinnati can't stop either area right now. Unfortunately, they're not going against Bryce Young this week. They're going against a seasoned veteran in Andy Dalton, former Bengal quarterback. So he's going to be able to move the ball as well. This is about T. Higgins for Cincinnati getting into sync. We saw him kind of fight the football when he was thrown. What do you have? 6 targets, a couple of catches. He was fighting the football. You could tell he was out of rhythm. You're 0-3. You don't want to be out of rhythm because you're going to be out of contention if you go to 0-4. That race is still, at least wild card, is still up for grabs. The season's not over. Joe Burrow said the right things. But statistically, they don't look like a playoff team. They just don't.
And I'll stay in the AFC and right there. I mean, that division was considered the most competitive division. Obviously, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Browns. The Browns are just putrid right now. Pittsburgh, shockingly undefeated. Justin Fields here to stay potentially. Ravens big game against Buffalo, and then the Bengals. But I want to go out west to the NFC West here, Ron, where everyone had already anointed the 49ers NFC champs on their way to the Super Bowl again. They forgot about the drama with Ayuk, all the 24, 25, 26 injuries in the offseason. Oh, by the way, now CMC goes to Germany, not out just for a month. They're saying months now. Debo banged up, Trent Williams banged up, Geno Smith undefeated, and oh, by the way, Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. looked pretty good on Sunday.
Crazy division now, huh? Yeah, with the vulnerability of San Francisco, all 3 of their NFC West opponents have to be feeling we can win this or we can be competitive. And that was one of the more fascinating handicaps last week. And I wrestled with it from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, finally came to the realization, even before George Kittle was declared out of the game, that the Rams were in a sweet spot last week against San Francisco and probably should have lost the game, still could have covered, of course. But San Francisco right now, they don't have all their weapons offensively. Obviously, McCaffrey brings so much to the table and he's missed. They have an offensive line injury or 2. Drew Greenlaw, we knew, was out because of the Super Bowl last year. Their secondary still allows too many Percentage passes too much there. Debo is a jack of all trades, running, catching. Right now, they don't have that weapon. They can always run the ball in a Shanahan offense, but that back out of the backfield catching passes is missing right now. And George Kittle, fascinating guy, fun guy to interview, and a fun guy to have on your team because he does everything like Kyle Juszczyk. They do the little things that get unnoticed. I think Kittle will be back this week, but they're pretty vulnerable. Maybe not this week because they play New England, and basically they just have to show up against the run, which they haven't been showing up. New England, again, will try to shorten the game. I will say this about Seattle, though. We haven't seen what the Seattle defense can do against a Jared Goff type quarterback yet. The three quarterbacks they played are Brissett, Bo Nix, and one other person early in the season that doesn't have the experience that Jared Goff has. So this is going to be a big test for Seattle. The Rams were in a great spot. They're in a very poor spot this week against Chicago. And Arizona, defensively, I like what Arizona brings to the table. You mentioned Harrison and so on. They're going to be a team that no one really wants to play because it's going to be a toss-up. It's going to be a mad scramble. I don't think Arizona's going to win the division, but they're going to be a pest to everybody. You can't overlook them. So San Francisco's in for a dogfight. We'll see if the lack of consistency from the other teams will still enable San Francisco to stay at the top.
Before you had talked backstage the intriguing board, and I'm going to give you the board to talk about a few games that you would like to talk about or matchups. We have a matchup tonight, a divisional game. Dallas travels to the Giants. Seen some sixes, seen some 5.5s. Short week. Dallas 1-2. I know that there'll be a million people trying to get their first 3 weeks back that they lost in the NFL. They're going to have teasers. They're going to have money line parlays set up till the cows come home. Thoughts on tonight's matchup? Is it easy as Dallas, close your eyes, and they're going to cover the 6-7 and leave New York 2-2?
In most years, the answer is yes. I mean, they've owned the Giants at New York. But this is a different situation. They're coming off a road game, and then they're going road Thursday night. And I read somewhere that that's the first time they're doing this. And that's unusual because a lot of teams have done this before. And Dallas is just doing it now. If I'm correct, weren't they on the road last week against Baltimore?
No, they were hosting.
They were home. Okay. They're still on a short week Thursday road game, which is unusual for them because any Thursday game like Thanksgiving, they're usually at home, or the Thursday after, it's a full week. So that's different. The Giants just unleashed a pass rush where they got to the opposing quarterback. We know the Dallas team is very one-dimensional this year. I mean, they stood on their behind and said Ezekiel Elliott could run the ball, and maybe he will against the New York Giants, but he certainly has been everything we thought he would be this year, kind of over the hill, if you want to really say something. They don't have a feature in that area. They're banged up a little bit at tight end. The Giants couldn't be in a better spot to have Dallas not have a full week to prepare for this particular game this time around. Can I pull the trigger on the Giants? It's a fair line. I think getting 5.5, 6 points is fair with the New York Giants. But I just have a little bit of trouble getting to the window because I don't think the Giants have proven that they can win against a Dak Prescott team. Their secondary is not that good. And even though Dallas is going to be maybe forced to pass in this game, if their offensive line holds up, I think Dak could have a big day.
Full slate on Sunday. Again, 2 games on Monday. What games intrigue you the most for Sunday or Monday?
Well, so quick hitters. The mini Green Bay game is fascinating because it's a different style of handicapping if you're going against Malik Willis, who will look at the first read and run if it's not there, versus Jordan Love, who, if he wins, if the blitz doesn't get home, he's going to have one-on-one coverage, and you can look for some very long gainers. It's going to be a very intriguing matchup. So I'm going to watch that injury report on Friday. I think it's a fascinating handicap in that particular game. The Washington-Arizona game is fascinating to me. Can Arizona play enough defense to stop this Washington team who's on a real big high, but they're going road Monday night to road Sunday? Typically not a great situation, especially for a new staff. So I'm fascinated by what Arizona brings to the table defensively. Which team, Cleveland or Vegas, could protect their quarterback? Because right now, I think Deshaun Watson is 1 or 2 games away from being benched, and Vegas is living on the edge with their quarterback play. Who wins the trenches? And those are the games. This game hasn't changed, Jeff, in 70 years. It's whoever wins the line of scrimmage. We can talk DVOA and yards per this and make up our fancy stats, but it's all about who wins the line of scrimmage. And Cleveland, Las Vegas is a line of scrimmage game. Buffalo, Baltimore, we talked about. And Seattle, Detroit is intriguing. It's a Monday night game. Detroit occasionally, they get too cute for their own good with fake punts inside their 15-yard line, not going for it early, or going for it early, 4th and more than 4 yards, then not going for it. I think they get a little too cute. They should just play with the hand that they've been dealt, which is a very good hand, great run-pass balance. It's going to be a very good game, extra day for Seattle to prepare, but a rare Monday night road game. A lot of intriguing games on the schedule.
Lastly, before we look forward to your closing thoughts here, the quarterback situation around the NFL, the athleticism, the running quarterback, the mobile quarterback versus the traditional pocket passer. We know where the game has changed. Well, the passing touchdowns, the passing yards, the offense has never been lower. What do you equate to that, Ron?
Well, partly the lack of cohesion in August with the preseason. Typically, it takes about 3 weeks for things to gel. After the mini bye or the bye, you see some of the teams find their footing. I think we'll see higher scoring games this week because it's week 4. People are getting more in rhythm. But you've got a league now where everybody's praising Bo Nix like crazy. What a performance last week. This, that, and the other. The guy has 0 TD passes. And yet we're praising some of these quarterbacks. Most of the rookie quarterbacks, if not all of them, going into Monday night's game, I think they had 0 TD passes. So we're just seeing different things going on in terms of the league as far as how to manufacture points. Defenses are trying to stop teams from going over the top on them to throwing deep. They're playing less press coverage. But I think these things even out. You'll see some changes offensively and defensively. Right now we have kind of a group of 10 quarterbacks that are the haves. They're really good. Some of them are really experienced, like the Matthew Stafford. We always forget, well, wait a second. Stafford can make the Rams better because he has that ability. Kirk Cousins, when he gets fully healthy, has that ability to take a mediocre Atlanta team and maybe make them a little bit better. And then you have the Mahomes, the Burrows, the Josh Allens, and so on. And then right in the middle, there seems to be a big drop. And then you have these other guys that are hanging on by a thread that are just kind of Band-Aids until they can find the next quarterback. And like the Daniel Jones is still a Band-Aid. Maybe he was 18 out of 20 at one point last week, but he's still a Band-Aid. He's not your overall solution to what ails the New York Giants. So it seems like a have-not situation in the NFL at quarterback.
Well, as we always wrap up this show, I give you that nice little 7-yard button hook, and we are all anxiously awaiting Ron's closing thoughts.
One of the things I think this fascinating week 4 will do is start to give us an idea of who are the teams that are going to gravitate to the top and who might gravitate to the bottom. Because right now I only have two teams, Kansas City and Buffalo. I don't have Minnesota as a top tier team. They're 3-0. That's nice. I don't have even a team like Detroit hasn't earned the right. They haven't played their best ball right now. Pittsburgh is 3-0, but they're not a top 5, 8, 9 team right now. I think this is the week with a lot of these matchups that we're going to start to see teams separate. I think we only know of Kansas City and Buffalo right now. And the other thing that's going to correct is we've seen all these large dogs win, knock everybody out in Survivor. Your 5.5-point dog, everybody's going down from the beginning of the season to last week when the top 4 Circa Survivor picks were all gone. I think there's going to be a correction at some point for an underdog player like me, where most of my plays are generally underdogs. I couldn't ask for a better 3 weeks. But we know there's going to be correction. I have to be aware of it. I have to be willing to take some small dogs, some small favorites and stuff like that. And I think you're not going to see that continue. You're not going to see all these 7-point favorites lose, maybe starting this week. Remember that Vegas corrects itself. The offshores correct itself. They know what they're doing with the line. So we have to adjust accordingly.
Go follow Ron, of course, on Twitter at Ron A Sports. Tell them where they can find your written work and also anything else that might be coming for your podcasts and your shows.
Okay, so we have the usual Tuesday and Thursday with Chris and then Chris and Ted. First article of the year came out. You can find it on Wager Talk, NFL News. I posted the link if you follow me on Twitter at Ron A Sports. Just some nuggets about all the AFC teams that I think we can think about what these things look like and why this team, even with their record, they may be 2-1, but these nuggets suggest they're not really 2-1, or maybe they're 0-3, but they're better than that. I have some nuggets that I put in the article, NFC article next week. So a few articles now and then you'll see out on Wager Talk. Tonight I'll be on with friends of yours, Cam Stewart, Gabe Moranci, in about, where am I? About 3 hours from now. Sports Rage TV, that's always a fun show. You never know where it's going to go. We'll talk some more NFL, maybe some college. We'll have some fun, just like I do with you. Talking football, it's fun.
We had Cam Stewart on at 11:30 this morning after Paul Stone. He made his debut last Thursday. He was able to come back with us. Love Cam to death. Obviously, same with Gabe on Sports Grid, the Sports Rage, and I'm telling you, they're the pair that beats the full house, Ron.
They're fun. Russell says I don't sleep, but I do sleep, and I can't. After this, we'll put on the music. We'll have some fun. We'll just throttle. I need to throttle down before I talk to Cam and Gabe.
Well, hopefully you can get a couple words in edgewise, because if Gabe gets going, he's tough to cut into. So, but anyways, I can't thank you enough. Shout out to all the followers. Shout out to Mr. Russell Saylor. Shout out to Mr. Billy Hewlin. Of course, everyone watching and listening that is not a part of our YouTube channel, head on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. It's free. Tell a friend. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., the NCAA Insiders is back. Matt Grissom, Quentin Mills talking some college football. I will be on with Andrew McGinnis at 3 o'clock with Wager Talk and McGinnis Picks there. And at 5 o'clock, we will be back for the closing bell with Riley Maggs. And weather permitting, I don't know. I'm not counting on it. Scotty Webb in the batter's box. He's right now in Florida getting ready for Helena tonight. So thoughts and prayers go out there. Make sure you go follow Ron at Ron A Sports. And, of course, if you got YouTube or wherever else you stream, make sure you're watching Sports Grid in a couple hours for Ron, Cam, and Gabe. Want to thank everyone here. Have a great, great night. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.